How long have you been a salesman for?
I've been in sales for around 10 years now.
How did you get started?
Well, I started because I wanted to make money, obviously. And then one of my friends told me that I should come up and start selling magazines on the phone to older ladies on a subscription-based model. And I started doing that. And the first 3 days were horrible. I didn't make any sales at all. So I was thinking about quitting it. But then I thought, all right, I need to just become better at this because people here are making so much money and we're like 16. So I want a piece of that cake as well. So I started listening to the good guys, and then sales started just kind of rolling in. It was pretty easy back then. It was just calling elderly ladies and turning their whatever they already buy in magazines into a subscription based model.
How many days before you made your first sale when you started the first sales job?
It was on the fourth day I made my first sale on the first call.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, I remember it. I remember the name also, Binde, from Denmark, somewhere in Jutland. It went relatively easy, and I just remember the feeling of it. The feeling was very exhilarating. There was a lot of adrenaline, even though I mean I made $20 on the sale, but it felt so good to actually make a sale, and that's kind of when it sparked in my eyes that if if I just become very good at this, then I can make a lot of money in sales.
After the first sale, that's when after the first dopamine rush, you were like, okay, I'll keep doing this.
Yes, yes. The first dopamine rush, and then you're a kid, so I was just thinking, damn. I was starting to do the math in my head. This call took 9 minutes. I'm here for 5 hours every single shift. If I make a sale every 30 minutes, that's X amount of sales, that's X amount of money. Oh my God, I'm gonna be rich.
How old were you?
I was 16.
You said something like you made your first sale after you looked at the other guys who were making many sales.
Yes,
What did you learn? Do you remember the name of the first guy you looked at?
yes. I remember it.
Uh,
I remember his name.
when you looked at him, what was the first sales lessons you learned at the beginning of your
Well,
career?
there was one guy when he was selling, he was doing it completely different from everybody else, and he was selling like 4 times as much as everyone else. And he didn't even pitch the product. And that's kind of when I learned that the silliest thing you can do in sales is pitch the product. So we always pitch the product. So we were like, yeah, so this magazine, you already know it. It's super famous, it's super good. It's been here for 50 years, yada, 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 yada. Just telling a billion things about the product itself. What the uh, good sales guy, his name's Marcus, was doing, and I noticed this super fast, is that he was not pitching the product, but he was pitching the problem it solves. So even then, we were just selling magazines on a subscription-based model. Um, so the pain that solved was that the women didn't have to go down to the store anymore to pick it up, like on Sunday mornings when they're having their coffee. They'll just get it delivered by 10 in the morning. And that was the problem he was fixing. So instead of you always having to rush down to go get it, maybe sometimes you forget it, and then all of your friends on Monday are talking about what was in the magazine, then you will always have it automatically, and you'll actually be the first ones to have it. He used to do this pitch where he said, you'll actually be the first to get it because you'll have it at the same time that the grocery stores get it as well. So that always seemed to work. So I started using that narrative instead. I started using the problems that it solves instead of the product itself.
And after that, your sales went up by how much?
Yeah. I was killing it back then. We were doing magazines first, and I used to make like the first 4 days I made, the first 3 days I made nothing, and then the fourth day I started hitting like record numbers. My personality mixed with this new experience. It was super fast as well, like 4 days. But it's just, I mean, it was telephone sales, so it wasn't as big as some of the things I've been doing now. But it like I used to make around 6 or 7 sales every single day at $20 a piece in a 5-hour shift when I'm 16. And there was no limit to how many leads we had, and there was no limit to how many hours I could spend working.
16. So did you save all the money and invest, or what did you spend all the money you made?
Absolutely. No, I spent everything on girls, fun, casino. I mean, casino came later, but I was always gambling. So I spent on football games.
So you said this was your first sales job. So could you tell me every single sales job you've had? This was when you were 16. Can you tell me like for how long you did it and every subsequent sales job and for how long?
I mean, I'm 25 now, so it's been a long ride, almost 10 years. But after that, the natural progression is always you sell magazines, then you either jump over to like some sort of insurance, phone subscription, or electricity. I jumped into I jumped into phone subscriptions, made a few sales there, had a bit of fun there. Then I went to the electricity business, which was very nice. It came at a pretty good time. So I was selling electricity for this green company. And yeah, I was doing that for quite a bit actually. I ended up getting like some kind of manager position there, but it was always just sales, um, which was even better because there's a bigger problem in electricity when you sell it. Then there are magazines like here. You can also talk about how much money people save, what kind of energy that they get, what kind of energy that they're buying and stuff. And yeah, I just kept these phone quick kind of sales for a long time until I got an offer to jump into software sales like SaaS. And there pretty quickly went from the typical route that people take in the SaaS industry, where you're a business development representative. And then I quickly, after that, became account executive, selling large software solutions to large companies.
And quick question. So before this SaaS job, the other sales job you had, you were like also in school at the same time, right? With the electricity, the newspaper, right?
Yes, I was studying my high school and then subsequently my bachelor's degree.
So did you think this SaaS job, this was like a full-time real career job? When you were doing these other sales job, did you ever think, okay, when I finish my bachelor's degree, I'm going to become full-time salesman, or what did you think?
No, no, I never thought that. I never actually knew what I was gonna be. I had a few ideas, but I never knew that I was gonna go into sales full time. It happened quite naturally. While I was making just regular good earnings with the electricity while I was studying as well, I met a few people, and through my connections, a friend of mine pitched the idea that I should go full time into SaaS. I was actually thinking of taking my master's degree, but when I started there, it just yeah, it was a no-brainer. It was too much fun to not do full time, and there was too much money to be made, and what I could learn was also very, very, very good.
So it was just natural, never a conscious decision to become a career salesman.
No,
What did you, when you first started the real career salesman, um, how was your ranking? Did you like outperform everyone else, or at the beginning were you just like normal salesman?
I was performing. I've always been performing well, but it just the way that I was brought up into in sales fits perfectly into how you do professional sales. because a lot of it is booking meetings, booking demos, what have you. And most people tend to be afraid of cold calling. Whereas what I did with my prior experiences and my prior boys, I call them, it was just cold calling all the time. But new people I see are hesitant towards just doing the cold calls. People nowadays, they want to try and find the secret sauce behind how you can book a meeting. They want to talk about how well you can create your LinkedIn, how well you can start making email templates and automations and yada, yada, yada. But I've always just found the best thing to do is just to pick up the phone and start dialing. And you also see that the other guys who are outperforming and the friends that I have in other SaaS businesses are always the guys who just do 60 calls a day and book 5 to 10 meetings every single day, every time they go on the phone. Because at the end of the day, obviously you can make systems and you can become better at sales, but you just put that on a high-speed track if you just book a lot of meetings. And that's kind of what I did.
Then I have a question. Let's say this scenario, you're a sales manager. You have to choose between two salesmen. One has zero sales experience, but he just came out of university, has a bachelor, and he's like fully educated, very good education. And then you have another guy, he does not have any education, but he's been working a few years in these what you call them, phone sales. Which one do you pick?
I mean, it's a difficult question. Obviously, it depends on the case, because I've seen both things happen. I've seen the educated college young person come into sales and absolutely just kill the game. I've also seen the same kind of profile just not be good at sales. And the same with the telephone sales. I've just seen people who come from that quick telesales market and just absolutely kill the game, crush numbers. And I've seen the same guys get fired after 3 months because they're not performing. It depends from the person to person. If they understand that it's a gradual learning process, that every year you become a lot better. And I actually would hire the person that I feel has the highest stress tolerance, because it's a different kind of job when you have numbers you need to hit. Most people work a job where once they get the job, it's very difficult to get fired because you're not based on performance. You're just you just have like tasks you need to do, like normal stuff you need to do. Whereas in sales, obviously you have a number you need to hit. If you don't hit it consecutively, you're going to get fired. And that stresses a lot of people out. They talk about quotas all the time and they want to hit this and that and the other. So if you can't handle stress, I would more look at that than where they come from, because it's a natural thing. Sales is a natural thing. Like, it is within us, in all of us, that we need to sell something. Every single interaction you're in some sort of sales interaction. If you go on a date, you're on a sales interaction. You have to sell yourself to whoever you're dating. If you're in a job interview, you're also selling yourself. I mean, you're always selling. So everyone knows that. It's just about stress tolerance and kind of what kind of guidance they get, I think.
Do you think the stress tolerance is like something you're just born with, or do you have like any systems, any habits you used when you're working to help with your stress tolerance?
I think it's just what you believe in. What do you believe? Do you believe that stress is a good thing or a bad thing? Do you believe that you crumble under stress, or what? I mean, I think it's I hate to say it because it feels so overused nowadays, but your mindset is just important, you know? I mean, why do you want to let stress win over you? You're not thinking rationally if you let stress win over you. So I think it's the way you were brought up, maybe, or the way you try to talk to yourself about stress. I don't really think about stress, honestly.
So
I
when you
think
heard
people,
like coworkers, you couldn't relate when you heard your coworkers talk about quotas.
no, no, I couldn't relate. Also, like people talk a lot about stress. Whenever I hear someone talk about stress, I genuinely lose complete interest in whatever else they have to say. There are people out there who have actual problems, real problems, and most people don't have problems and they're stressing. If people, I generally tend to steer away from those kind of people
Right.
and just genuinely lose all interest in the conversation.
Right. I had another question. You said something about like the difference between phone sales and this more career sales where there's longer time. How did you find, did you have trouble adjusting from the quick phone sales to this more SaaS, more longer sales, more professional career?
No, it was pretty fast. It was pretty fast, but I did have some good guidance. I had good coworkers, and also I enjoyed the sales process. I enjoyed the product, so that made it a lot easier to transition into that. I think it was relatively fast.
And what about like the example with I forgot Marcus, the example where you learned the difference between pitching and selling the problem. What was your experience like this when you started this new job? Did you have any experience like this? You followed somebody around and then you got some advice on how to improve?
Yeah, I was just checking what other people were doing. I was just joining other people's meetings, trying to read as many books as possible. Like there's a lot of good books out there about this. The Challenge of Sale is one, tremendous, but it's just about how you understand a few tenets of sales. I think. Like I think one of the few fundamental things that people need to understand is like people buy from people that they like. Um, People don't want to hear salespeople talk. People want to talk themselves. So let people tell you exactly what they need. Um, don't pitch product, pitch the problem that it solves. These kind of small things that you have to internalize and understand, because it's fine. It's cool that you have these things as like uh, focus points or bullet points somewhere on your wall, and like you always look at it before meetings and stuff. We just kind of need to understand what is it that drives people to buy, and it tends to be always the same things. And in SaaS, it was relatively easy. I mean, SaaS stands for software as a service, so there's a service there. There's a problem that your product should solve, and that's what you need to focus on.
I have something that might be interesting. So maybe there's going to be many guys here or many sales people here who work in this SaaS field. Maybe it would be valuable if you could like give some advice on, you were the top salesman, right? At your SaaS company, your division, you're like number one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it varies from month to month, but yes.
Uh, what are some frameworks or some advice you could give sales people in similar positions so they can increase their sales?
Just work your ass off, honestly. I think most people in sales, I see a lot of people, the biggest problem is that they think that this is a career. Like the sales is not a career. The reason why you actually choose sales is that you want to make significantly more money than everyone else. So you should look at it as a huge, like 30-year journey. You should try and find out how much money do I want to make, try and make a 10-year plan, and then find out how you want to do that in 1 year. Like, why would you not just keep like prospecting overnight so that you have not 60 phone calls to make the day after, but 100? Why not aim for having like 30 meetings booked every single week? Like all of these kind of things just pump up numbers. Honestly, there's enough clients out there in the world now with the internet, and you can basically sell to anyone. Just keep numbers up. It's it's always a numbers game, and as you get the numbers up, you will also inevitably, unless you're a dumb, just find out what kind of things work, what kind of things don't work. Because you can read all these books and you can try and find out everything about sales, but if you have 2 meetings every single week, you just don't have the quantity of people you talk to actually test out things. You just need a lot of people to talk to every single day, and then try different things, whatever works for you. I've seen people go textbook on all the sales and do good, but I've also just seen people be kind of funky with sales, like just kind of rock up into meetings and just be themselves and kill it. I think it's always about finding out what works for you, then work your ass off.
So you suggest to a new, let's say, a university graduate, now he's in this SaaS sales job. You suggest focusing on, how do you say, getting as many bookings, as many meetings, and then using that volume to get better.
Yes. And also to be the first one who shows up and the last one to leave. What else do you have to do? Like just work. You're here to make money.
How many hours
You don't make money.
every day? How many hours would you work?
I mean, it varied, but back in the day, I liked to stay in the office as long as possible
10 hours,
until
12
my
hours?
eyes are tired. Like 9 in the morning until 7.
Are you at your office? Were you like the extreme person? Like you're the one with the most hours in?
I think I was up there. There was a lot of killers. There was a lot of good dudes there who were selling. I mean, we were kind of like a little bit of a remote company, so people would be working from everywhere. But at my office, it was also a lot of good salesmen. So they were also there.
Should we disclose? No, maybe we shouldn't disclose the kind of company you work for or the name of the company.
No, SaaS is enough.
SaaS. Let's see. Um, Maybe there's something interesting we could talk about. Um, Personally, I know the story, like the story behind you and what happened to the company. Maybe it would be interesting, like you could tell about the management side of sales and an example of how you can ruin an entire sales division in a country. Would that be interesting? Because it's a very interesting
I mean,
story.
probably. I mean, probably yes, but that's more manager side. That's not sales side. But yeah, I mean,
Also, please,
I think that man.
please,
What?
please don't curse because I have to go back and edit out the cursing so the video doesn't get flagged. I think it's an interesting story. Would you like to tell it?
Yeah, of course. Well, you need a when you have a manager, you need to have a manager where you feel like that person is better at sales than you, and you also need to feel that that person is someone who can enable you to make more sales, like who can add to your knowledge. If that doesn't happen, if you put a manager in a sales position with people where the people, it's always a value exchange, right? So I think what happened with us, it was that we just had a manager where the setup wasn't there for him to teach anyone about product because he came in late to the company. And yeah, sales skills kind of lacking, I think. I didn't see him perform on sales or demo bookings or anything. So that kind of, you lose kind of trust if you don't see the person actually doing the work that they're talking about, that they are experts in. And yeah, what happened with us was just that there was some issues where the manager kind of had to make sales themselves also, and it just created a weird vibe when that person didn't make any sales, and then you're just sitting there like, why are you here?
Question.
But honestly, I mean, it was just a toxic environment.
Question. Before this manager came into the office and after, how many people were working at the office before him and then he after him, after the end of his time there?
I think we were around 7 before, and now the there's no one left. Everyone quit, and then one person got fired.
What happened to the manager now?
He got fired.
So what?
He didn't. I don't think he had a team to lead at that point.
Also, you showed me you showed me something funny. So at the CRM, should we talk about this? Yeah, it's a funny story. At the CRM, he showed me. You can see for the different salespeople how many they've contacted, how many they're in progress with, how many bookings they made, etc., etc. So this specific manager, he got reprimanded by his superiors, and they said he had what was the minimum he had to, what was the minimum bookings he had to do every month.
Like bookings a month is around 25 to 40, depending on how senior you are.
And then I remember you showed me his
Yeah, after 3 months, he had zero,
he
which was
showed me
good.
his CRM. 3 months. What
Yeah,
what did he do at work if he wasn't working?
I don't think any of us were working at that point. Like towards the end, no one was really cared. Like there had been some issues before that are kind of lame to talk about, but like nobody was really there working.
So is he 100% the fault, the reason why it went from seven very good salespeople to zero? Is he the number one reason?
I don't think he was the only reason. I think it was a mix of a
What was the other
few
one?
things. Bad management from top office, and then it just created. It just kind of became a toxic environment to work in, and then people slowly started to leave. And when things are not growing, things are dying. That's a very true statement. So as offices get smaller and smaller, they also get more and more toxic, I think. Um, and then at that point, it was just inevitable, as like when you start what's it called when snow falls from a
Snowball,
mountain or something.
snowball,
What?
snowball effect.
Yes, yeah, there's just a snowball effect, right? Or levine, where once it started, once you go from 7 people to five, you lose 2 people that you think like, all right, this was a cool environment. And sales kind of starts to drop, and then there's like this toxic environment where everybody's pointing fingers, nobody's happy about pay, nobody really wants to be there. Then it just snowballs into this super annoying thing. But I don't think it was, I don't believe that it was his fault, all of it. I think everyone had a part of the blame to take. um but he was definitely a big part of it.
I have two questions now. Firstly, you said upper management did a lot of the blame. Running out of time. How long do we have left? Oh, we still have 10 minutes. That's fine. You said he was not entirely to blame. I want to do two things. If you could give some real life examples of what the upper management directly did to make the office worse and eventually die down. And then secondly, right now I know you're working on your own business, you're making a lot of money, but what kind of offer or what kind of management environment would you have to see to want to work for that company as a salesperson?
Good questions. um I just think it was our office. Like at this company, we were multinational. I think we were in around 25 countries. I think most other countries are fine. I think they're happy and all that. um I think it was just ours. Like the snowball effect started, nobody kind of wanted to be there. I think on all other parameters, the company is killing it. I mean, they got hundreds of millions in funding, and they're making tens of millions in revenue every single year. They're doing good. It was just our specific little office where people didn't want to be there. The pay was the compensation. Even though we're in sales, I mean, you make most of the money yourself, but it wasn't competitive towards what other kind of offers we would get. Like our our base salary was something that equates to like 50 or $55,000, and other places, even still today on LinkedIn, I showed you before, I get offers for 130K a year. 150K a year, something like that, where
Without
where it
commission,
just becomes a little bit.
without commission, base salary.
Yeah, I mean, all in together, when you hit the minimum targets and stuff, you get 130K. That's the kind of offers I get. Where the other place, like if you just hit minimum, I would be hitting like 70, 80, 90K. So that also just kind of added fuel to the fire, because we were a lot of good sales reps that would all be getting these kind of offers, which makes it kind of silly to come into office when you're basically being offered double for selling more or less the same kind of stuff.
Why did
What
they?
was your second question? Your second question.
Yeah. But firstly, like they must have known, like they must have like gotten complaints, like, "Hey, I'm getting double offers." Why did they refuse to up the salary?
I think that maybe the way us sales reps went about it was maybe wrong, or maybe like they just didn't see the value. And whenever someone says no, especially in sales, to a pay rise, it's very simple. They don't see the value in having us. And that's what everybody else felt. And I'm pretty sure last I checked, there's nobody left at the company, I think.
And
At on my old department.
but what I'm thinking, like they could very easily. I mean, salespeople, they make their own value. You're basically, even if you pay them base salary, you're paying the commission. How could they not see, hey, we're slowly losing all the top performers?
I don't know. I was thinking the same thing.
You can very
But
easily see
obviously,
value.
I mean, yeah, but I tend to think that if you're in the C level or upper management, that you know more about these kind of things than me. So I'm just drawing a blank. I don't know. But also maybe like I think it was also a mix of the toxic
What do you
the
mean by
toxic environment that
how
was
was it
created.
toxic? What do you mean by toxic? Like some
Like
real
people,
examples.
yeah, people didn't want to come to work anymore. People were complaining all the time. There was no real like strive towards actually hitting quotas. Nobody really cared. And
Because
that was kind of toxic. And like when people don't care, people get yelled at or something. And then when you're yelled at, you're like, but you're not working either. Like, what do you want? Leave me alone. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing. It was very, very toxic. And that's why we wanted to, most of us stopped anyways. Like the market is just a little bit too big to stay somewhere where you're unhappy. But other than that, I mean, most of the stuff was super great. Most of the stuff, the first year I was there was so fun. Um, Good colleagues, good pay, all of it. But that kind of just gradually changed. And then I think management promised some things in the beginning about pay rises and stuff that kind of never came. I think the communication was just super bad because it was a relatively large company.
how okay, I can ask after this. So the second question was, now you're working on your business. We're not going to talk about your business, but now you're working on this. You're getting great offers all the time on LinkedIn, like you said. What kind of offer would you need to be like, okay, it'd be stupid to not accept it? What kind of company management structure would you want to work for now?
The only thing that could now I'm successfully running a business that is producing $10,000 a month in profit. So it would take a lot for me to leave because it's going too well. I don't see a scenario where I leave. However, I could potentially see a scenario if the product was great, if management, if I went there and I had conversations and I felt like that they could genuinely contribute to my growth as a salesperson. Because I think the most valuable asset that I have is my sales experience. So if there was someone there leading the team that I genuinely believed was a wealth of knowledge for me in sales, then I would probably consider it if it was remote as well. Or if my business burns down, then I kind of have to go somewhere, and then I'm just gonna take whatever offer that it has the most money.
I'm thinking like, I was just thinking also like with you, it must be very hard. How do you say? Since, like I said before, salespeople create their own value. They're basically commission. Even if you pay them wages, they're commission because the wages is a part of their commission. Isn't it hard to? What stops top salespeople like you? Let's say you're a company, you're a manager. You have a top salesman like you. How can you prevent him from starting his own company like you? How can you keep him there?
Because I mean, look, there's a million reasons why you don't want to start a company. It's stressful for a lot of people. It's you have a lot of employees that you constantly need to make sure that they're doing what they need to do and they're also happy and they're also compensated. Then you need to create a company and you need to take massive amounts of risk, and you need to make a product that the people actually want, and most people don't have that, and it's super difficult out there. Whereas the 9 to 5, I see a lot of people nowadays, especially on your YouTubes and Instagram, they're talking so much about the 9 to 5. The 9 to 5, there's a reason why it's so popular. It's because it's good. It's nice. It is nice to come in somewhere, like as a salesperson or any other kind of job, to come in somewhere, have some fun with some colleagues, make some money, and when it's 5 o'clock, you turn your brain off. You don't think about this business. When you're an entrepreneur and when you have your own business, 24/7 you're working. All the time you're working to make sure that things are the way they need to be. That's what I think.
So, do you miss the life of being an employee, not being the owner?
Some aspects of it I miss. Yes. It's nice to have that kind of more relaxed life where you have more time to have fun with friends, but the amount of money that I want to make in my life, I can't make as an employee. So some parts yes, some parts no.
What about, I was just thinking this. What if you got like an offer where um could you convince a top salesman to stay at a company? You gave him like stock, like some kind of like, I don't know, like
Yeah,
equity.
a lot of companies do that. I have a lot of friends who work for Vault, the Scandinavian version of Uber Eats that's kind of all over the world now.